All right, so I have a 2-for-1 in this video, and it's crazy. This should help reveal the intentions to people who are still unsure or supportive of the Trump administration of, hey, maybe these people don't have your best interest in mind. So, from The Independent, Trump freezes $1 billion in food aid given to local schools and food banks to help low-income families. After this, we are going to just briefly talk about the Department of Education. We already know they want to cut it, but there are some legal problems there. So for now, they're just slashing the workforce, and we'll get into that here shortly. So the Department of Agriculture has slashed over $1 billion in funding aimed at helping schools and food banks purchase from local farmers, according to a nonprofit. Multiple states were recently notified of these cuts. The nonprofit School Nutrition Association said in a statement Tuesday. An estimated $660 million in funds through the local food for schools programs for 2025 will no longer be available to support childcare institutions and schools, the group added. The program will strengthen the food system for schools and childcare institutions by helping to build a fair, competitive, and resilient local food chain and expand local and regional markets with an emphasis on purchasing from historically underserved producers and processors, the USDA website says about the local food for school program. The Independent has reached out to the USDA for comment. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education confirmed it received a notice of termination from the USDA on Friday of the second round of local food for schools grant funding, an award of $12.2 million, claiming that they determined this agreement no longer effectuates agency priorities and termination of the award is appropriate, the state governor Maura Healey said in a Monday statement. The governor suggested that the cuts were made part of a Department of Government efficiency-led effort to reduce spending in the federal government. Oh my God. How does this not show you their intentions? You ever notice when they cut something that just like any program that does some semblance of good, they're always like, it doesn't align with our priorities. We're cutting this to align more with the administration's priorities. Okay. This administration has 3 priorities, okay? Just 3. 1, border security and deportation. 2, defense, so Pentagon spending. 3, tax cuts that disproportionately benefit the top 1% and the ultra wealthy. That's all they care about. Anything else does not align. Any sort of social program or social safety net we have, it's on the chopping block. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP. We've already seen cuts to the VA, and I think they had firings at the Social Security Administration already. Like, how is everyone okay with this? I don't understand. Like, the only programs that they claim are not in line with their goals or have fraud or inefficiency are programs that either, 1, regulate business. So Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is 1. And you can even throw the FCC and SEC and all that kind of in there now because Trump took over full control of these agencies that are supposed to be independent. And you also have just any kind of social welfare program, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Like, this is stuff they go after and say, yeah, it's inefficient, there's fraud and corruption. But they never say anything about fraud, corruption. Like, where are the cuts to the Pentagon? Why are we increasing Pentagon spending when they failed every audit for like the last decade? But no, we're focused on welfare programs. How are we okay with this? At the same time, they say, oh, it's because of the deficit and we're in so much debt, we're spending so much money. Okay, why are you cutting these programs but increasing border spending and defense spending? I just can't wrap my head around that. I can't. And also, if you cared about the deficit, you wouldn't be giving giant tax cuts to the wealthy. Anywho, Donald Trump and Elon Musk have declared that feeding children and supporting local farmers are no longer priorities, and it's just the latest terrible cut with real impact on families across Massachusetts. Said Governor Healey, there is nothing appropriate about it. Trump and Musk are continuing to withhold essential funding in violation of court orders, and our children, farmers, and small businesses are bearing the brunt of it. The Local Food Purchase Assistant Cooperative Agreement Program, which provides food to food banks and organizations that reach undeserved communities, was also included in the cuts. Insane. The department notified states that it was unfreezing funds for existing agreements for this program, but did not plan to carry out a second round of funding for fiscal year 2025, the outlet reported. An estimated $420 million of federal funds were expected to go towards the program in 2025, the USDA website shows. A USDA spokesperson told the outlet that funding is no longer available and those agreements will be terminating following the 60-day notification. The spokesperson added, these programs created under the former administration via executive authority no longer effectuate the goals of the agency. LFPA and LFPA Plus agreements that were in place prior to LFPA 25, which still have substantial financial resources remaining, will continue to be in effect for the remainder of the period of performance. Last week, Illinois' Governor J.B. Pritzker said the program can no longer operate in the state after USDA said it was ceasing reimbursements for any costs incurred after January 19th. The same applied to the Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Program, which aims to build resilience in the middle of the food supply chain. Reimbursement claims submitted for costs incurred after January 19th are being returned with no explanation or timeline for reimbursements to resume, the statement read. Cutting funds for these programs is a slap in the face to millions of Illinois farmers and the communities they feed, said Governor Pritzker. The Trump administration's refusal to release grant funds doesn't just hurt farmers in a program, it devastates our most vulnerable, food insecure communities relying on meat, fresh produce, and other nutritious donations. It's insane. I can't wrap my head around this and why people can't just wake up and see that these people do not care about you. They care about increasing money for defense, border, and tax cuts. Tax cuts are a government expenditure. Oh boy. With research showing school meals are the healthiest meals Americans can eat, Congress needs to invest in underfunded school meal programs rather than cut services critical to student achievement and health, said the group's president, Shannon Gleave. These proposals would cause millions of children to lose access to free school meals at a time when working families are struggling with rising food costs. Meanwhile, short-staffed school nutrition teams striving to improve menus expand scratch cooking and would be saddled with time-consuming and costly paperwork created by new government inefficiencies. Alexis Bylander, Interim Child Nutrition Programs and Policies Director of DC-based nonprofit Food Research and Action Center, said this decision has devastating impacts. The Trump administration's decision to cut funding for cooperative agreements that support schools and other organizations' ability to purchase local foods will have a devastating impact on students, schools, farmers, and local economies, Bylander said in a statement. As food costs continue to rise and schools struggle to stretch their meal budgets, now is the time to bolster efforts that improve access to affordable and healthy local foods, not cut them. Yeah, and how's this going to lower grocery prices? No, this is inflationary. I can't. They don't care. They do not care. I don't know how to make that more clear. Education Department cuts workforce by nearly 50% in mass layoffs. The Education Department is going through a mass layoff of its employees as part of reduction in force efforts happening across the federal government. The department announced Tuesday evening that it laid off nearly 50% of its workforce through RAF. Impacted employees will be placed on administrative leave beginning March 21st. According to the department, all impacted employees will receive full pay and benefits until June 9th, as well as substantial severance pay or retirement benefits based upon their length of service. Education Secretary Linda McMahon. Man, every time I'm reminded who our education secretary is, I'm just like, Jesus. I mean, you can say that for like any department head right now, but anyways, called the workforce reduction a significant step towards restoring the greatness of the United States education system. Oh my God. They just do devastating things and then say, this is a step towards good things. And everyone's like, yes. Oh my gosh. Like, doesn't like reducing the staffing of a lot of these agencies, isn't that going to increase the likelihood of like fraud and corruption? Because you're going to have less oversight and things are going to be a lot Like, people are going to be so overworked, and there's just going to be so much that slips through. Like, oh my. The department says its workforce now stands at about 2,100 employees, down from 4,100 when President Donald Trump took office. Chief Human Capital Officer Jacqueline Clay told employees in an email Tuesday evening that the agency has begun sending RIF notices to employees. Clay wrote that the employees who applied for a voluntary separation incentive payment have also received their acceptance notices. Several agencies are offering early retirement to employees, as well as VSIPs or buyouts worth up to $25,000 to incentivize employees to leave their job as a part of the Trump administration's plans to downsize the federal workforce. So, yeah, can someone tell me how this is a good thing? Either of these. Cutting the Department of Education is not a good thing. Does our education system have a lot of problems? Does the Department of Education itself have a lot of problems? Of course. But the Republicans, they can call out a problem, but their solution is just, it's not good. Taking an axe to the department is not how you solve our education system. You're going to hurt it more. But this is all a part of their plan because they want to undermine public school funding and public schools in general and force people to private religious schools. I just don't know what to say about this, man. I don't know how many more agencies that are meant to help the consumer in a way or go after and regulate big business in a way. I don't know how many more times I can go over this until people finally wake up and be like, hey, maybe these aren't actually good for the country. And it does seem like their policies are very biased towards benefiting the wealthy. Like, why does the middle class and lower class have to stomach cuts to programs like Social Security, the VA, Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, you name it? And now what we just talked about. Why do we have to stomach these cuts while the rich don't have to stomach anything? They get no downsides to these tax reductions. We get a modest, very, very small tax cut compared to the rich by absolute dollar amount. And depending, like if you look at corporation tax cuts, that's by a drastic amount. And we have to pay for it. Like, it's programs that benefit us that are on the table. It's never anything that the rich don't have to sacrifice anything. Here's my point. They have everything to gain and nothing to lose. We have so much to lose and so little to gain comparatively. And at the same time, they still increase defense spending, increase border funding. But this stuff, yeah, we need to cut it. I can't anymore, man. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one. If you made it to this point in the video, I just want to give a special thank you. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button down below, and if you really enjoyed it, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button while you're down there. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I will try to reply to any and all comments that I can. Until next time, watch that video on screen.